When you hear the word stress, what are some things that come immediately to mind? For some of us, it might be that looming deadline, the traffic jam, a difficult coworker, or the stack of bills we have to pay. Or maybe you're thinking about the harmful effects of chronic stress, such as increased risk for high blood pressure, heart disease, depression, and anxiety. Stress is all around us, and most of us probably think about stress in a negative way. But guess what? Stress can be good. When our brain perceives a threat or a challenge, it redirects blood flow to our muscles and floods our bodies with hormones that give us extra bursts of energy, focus, and strength. In the face of real danger, this stress response, often known as the fight or flight response, can keep us safe. For example, it can be the difference between being hit by a car or reacting fast enough to jump out of the way. In small doses, stress can also help us meet daily challenges more effectively. That extra surge in energy can help us meet a deadline. That boost in concentration can help us ace a job interview. Stress can also provide the everyday motivation we need to reach our goals. Research has even shown that some stress can fortify our immune systems. Remember how we started by asking you what you thought about stress? Well, that's an important question because your answers can determine whether you manage stress or stress manages you. You see, our feelings, thoughts, and behaviors are inextricably tied together. When a stressful situation arises, we often have negative or inaccurate thoughts about the situation, and those thoughts can trigger feelings such as fear, anger, and frustration. Our feelings can then affect how we behave. In the face of stress, we can get caught up in a cycle that is unproductive and even harmful. The great news is that research has shown we can interrupt this cycle. There are proven strategies we can use to manage stress and even eliminate the harmful effects that it can have on our physical and mental well-being.
Let's start by looking at strategies that can help change our thoughts.
In the face of a stressful situation, we often fall into thinking traps. Thinking traps are overly rigid patterns of thinking that can distort our perceptions of reality. Some examples of thinking traps: catastrophizing is where we think the worst possible outcome is the only outcome possible, and that we won't be able to manage that outcome. For example, I'm going to forget all the words to my speech, everyone is going to laugh at me, and I will never recover from this embarrassment. Mind reading happens when we believe that we know what other people are thinking and assume that they are thinking negatively about us. For example, I know everyone in my office hates me. All or nothing thinking is when we look at a situation only in terms of extremes. So things are only good or bad, only successes or failures. For example, I'm trying to eat healthy, but I messed up and I ate a donut today. My entire diet plan is derailed. So it's pretty easy to see how thinking traps can cause anxiety and seriously undermine our ability to think clearly and make good decisions. Just telling yourself to stop thinking this way is not likely to help you get out of a thinking trap. Instead, follow these steps. First, identify the thinking trap. Really examine your thoughts and see if they are falling into patterns of distorted thinking. If they are, then actively challenge those thinking traps. Imagine looking at your thoughts like a detective, looking at the hard facts and gathering evidence against the thoughts. If the thought of forgetting your entire speech and everyone laughing at you comes up, challenge the thought by asking yourself, is there evidence to support this thought? Any evidence that disproves it? You might realize that you've practiced the speech, so chances of you forgetting all the words are slim. And besides, you are going to have a copy of the script to refer to even if you do forget some words. You might remember that you have seen other people forget words to speeches before and no one in the audience laughed or were unkind.
Another strategy you can use is called the double standard. Ask yourself if you would judge other people as harshly if they did the same thing or made the same mistake as you did.
You might realize that you may be too hard on yourself. You can also avoid thinking traps by using coping statements. When a negative thought comes up, consciously follow that thought with one that reminds you that you have the ability to handle the situation and ways to overcome the problem. Some examples of coping statements include, no need to panic, I can get through this. I can ask for help.
Let's talk about one more strategy for changing our thoughts, and that is by reframing our stress.
When we perceive a stressful event as a threat, we trigger our body's stress response and our brain sends us into fight or flight mode. But when we choose to perceive a threat as a challenge, we can change the way our brain processes the stressful event. Pathways in our brain that promote effective problem solving open up, so not only is our stress reduced, but our performance actually improves.
So let's move on to some ways to manage stress by optimizing our feelings.
Optimizing our feelings means using our emotions to drive positive behaviors. But before we can do that, we need to know how we are feeling and clearly label it. This self-awareness is key and may come more easily to some than others. One good way of heightening our emotional awareness is by writing down how we are feeling. Putting our feelings into words and seeing the words and expressions of our emotions contributes to our ability to channel those emotions into action. When we write about a stressful event and our feelings about stress, it can help give us different perspectives and help us see solutions that we might not have seen before. Writing down how we are feeling also has the effect of lessening the intensity of negative feelings such as anger and anxiety. You probably have already experienced this, but simply telling someone else how you're feeling can help you feel better. Instead of bottling up our feelings when we're experiencing stress, we can talk about them to a trusted friend or family member. They may be able to provide the support needed to manage the stress. Verbalizing our feelings can help release that pressure and relieve our stress.
So let's end with strategies on how we can manage stress by changing our behavior.
To change negative behaviors that we might be engaging in response to stress, we have to start by acknowledging those behaviors. Make a list of stressful events in your life and how you are responding to them. Once we have identified the behavior, we can apply strategies to change that behavior. For example, when you're given a task, do you procrastinate? One reason we procrastinate is because we think the work is going to be overwhelming, which in turn makes us feel anxious, which leads us to putting off doing the work. We can change our behavior by breaking the task into very small parts and doing one small part at a time. Every time we complete a part of a task, no matter how small it is, we feel good about the accomplishment, which then makes us think, hey, okay, I can do this, which then allows us to do the next small part.
Next strategy we are going to look at is progressive muscle relaxation. This is a relaxation technique where we focus on tensing, then relaxing a group of muscles. When we are under stress, one of the ways our body reacts is by tensing up our muscles. This can cause headaches, neck and back aches, and even stomach aches. When we practice muscle relaxation, we can learn how to relieve tension caused by stress. You can start by tensing and relaxing the muscles in your toes. Then progressively work your way up to your neck, your eyes, and your forehead.
Ever notice how your breathing gets more rapid, shallow, and erratic when you're under stress? On the flip side, when you are relaxed, your breathing tends to be slow, deep, and regular. By learning to control our breathing, we can mimic the state of relaxation and dissipate stress as it occurs. But not all breaths are created equal. The key is to lengthen our exhalation and try to make it twice as long as your inhalation. Here's how to do a basic deep breathing exercise. Sit or stand comfortably and close your eyes. Breathe naturally. Feel your inhale and exhale. Now, gradually increase the length of your exhalation. For example, by inhaling to a count of 2 and exhaling to a count of 4. If the 2 to 4 count feels too short for you, try inhaling to a count of 3 and exhaling to a count of 6, and so on. Your breathing should be smooth and relaxed. Don't push for a longer count if it feels uncomfortable. The most important thing is that your exhale is longer than your inhale. Try to practice this when you're calm. That way, when you're under stress, you will be able to readily use this strategy.
When it comes to stress management, there is no strategy that is one size fits all. Use the strategies that work best for you. Remember that stress might be inevitable, but the negative effects of stress don't have to be. You might not be able to change some of the stressors in your life, but you can control how you feel, think, and behave in response to those stressors, and that can make all the difference.